Welcome to the Lion's Tares Ministry. This is Reverend Liz Jackson. Today's sermon is Reality and Society, History of the Roman Catholic Church Government and Armies, Part 3. In Part 1, we broke down the meaning of the word Roman Catholic Church and Vatican, as well as touched upon some idol worshiping and why Latin was and is the official language of the Roman Catholic Church. In Part 2, we talked about the formation of the Roman government. We learned that Rome was first called the Eternal City. It had 7 kings and was a monarchy just like the Vatican is today. We learned Rome had a wall and still does, just like the Vatican City has a wall. And we learned the origins of Pontifex Maximus, which is a title of the Pope that was established by Numa Pompilius, which was the second king of Rome. We also learned about the small army of the Vatican called the Swiss Army. Again, as a reminder, Mystery Babylon is your entire world. The Pope, all of them, are your false prophets, and the Roman Catholic Church is the whore of Babylon. In Part 3, we're going to discuss the newly formed Roman Empire. Where appropriate, I will insert questions about the Pope or Vatican and the United States government, as I live in the U.S., and I don't know much about other countries. There are some things that came to light during the sermon. So again, where appropriate, I will insert questions that Abaya put into me to ask. It is important to understand what the word Babylon means. Babylon means confusion. This whole world is under confusion. That's the mystery. Mystery Babylon means the whole world is confused. Why? Because you all live under something called collective amnesia. I'm awake now, so I don't live under confusion. I can see clear as day. Do I still make some mistakes? I sure do, because I'm still human. But the confusion is not with me. I see the truth, and I hate being lied to. And it's awful. But the biblical outline of usage for Babylon means confusion. Let me read what else it means. Allegorically, of Rome as the most corrupt seat of idolatry and the enemy of Christianity. So here you go. You have Rome associated with Babylon in the definition. Oh, by the way, Babylon again is strong G897. So when you go to look it up, you can type in Strong's number G897 and it'll turn up Babylon. And Babylon, originally from Hebrew origin of H894, was the capital of Chaldea and a type of tyranny. All not good. So again, if the Roman Catholic Church honored Abba Yah and cared for our Creator, I don't think they'd call themselves Rome, but they do. So yeah, why would you carry a corrupt name? That just doesn't make sense to me. But that's what confusion does. It doesn't make sense, but it makes perfect sense to me, as I know the Vatican is in the shape of a snake and serpents, and that's who they worship. They are the seat of Satan. They hold themselves higher than Abba Yah, and they blaspheme all the time. They talk bad about him. They change times and dates, but the whole world worships after the beast. The Pope, man, I'm just saying. So the prophets that were alive during this time period, because Part 3 is talking about the newly formed Roman Empire, we have Nahum, Zephaniah, Jeremiah, Habakkuk, Daniel, Lamentations, Obadiah, Ezra, Haggai, Zechariah, Esther, Nehemiah, and Malachi. Very important to know what prophets were alive during these time periods, because that's going to put their prophecy into perspective for you, especially Daniel chapter 7. So what was Rome first called? A question I asked in Google. It was first called the Eternal City by the Roman poet Tabulus in the 1st century BC, and the expression was also taken up by Ovid, Virgil, and Livy. Rome is also called Caput Mundi, or capital of the world. What does the Holy See mean? Encyclopedia Britannica. The Holy See is the name given to the government of the Roman Catholic Church, which is led by the Pope as the Bishop of Rome. As such, the Holy See's authority extends over Catholics throughout the world. Yes, repetition is key. The more you hear this, the more it's going to click. Is the Catholic Church a government? U.S. Department of State. The Holy See is the universal government of the Catholic Church and operates from Vatican City State, a sovereign independent territory. The Pope is the ruler of both Vatican City State and the Holy See. Again, what does the word Catholic mean? The word Catholic means universal. So in 509 BC, the end of the monarchy. Rome's era as a monarchy ended in 509 BC with the overthrow of its seventh king, Lucius Tarquinius Superbus, whom ancient historians portrayed as cruel and tyrannical compared to his benevolent predecessors. Rome turned from a monarchy into a republic. So Abaya asked me to ask Google how many countries have republic governments. And this comes from worldpopulationreview.com. It states, even with its dramatic implication, the term republic has been claimed by states whose leaderships could be described as military dictators and totalitarian regimes. And this being said, 159 of the world's sovereign states use the word republic as part of their official name. Well, the United States says it's a republic, but I wouldn't want to be associated with the word republic either. So before the 1600s, the term republic was used to designate any state that was not an authoritarian regime. Republic could encompass not only democratic states, but also oligarchies, aristocracies, and monarchies. The government in republic countries is considered a public matter. It is not the private concern of the rulers. The word republic comes from the Latin term res publica, which means public things, public matters, or public affair. Republics differ from direct democracies. A republic is defined as a state in which supreme power is held by the people and their elected representatives. A direct democracy allows citizens to govern the states themselves with no representatives. Despite this, many modern democracies are by and large republics. Direct democracies and republics are considered the opposite of dictatorship. So history.org on U.S. history states the Romans established a form of government, a republic, that was copied by centuries for centuries. In fact, the government of the United States is based partly on Rome's model. So, what a better way to build Babylon? Have nearly every country establish Roman models and doctrines in their governments and religion. That's the key. Why not? In 510 BC, early Roman Republic, Lucius Janus Brutus was the founder, a semi-legendary figure who is held to have ousted the despotic Etruscan king Lucius Tarquinius Superbus from Rome in 509, and then to have founded the Roman Republic. He is said to have been elected to the first consulship in that year, and then to have condemned his own sons to death when they joined in a conspiracy to restore the Tarquins. All right, so the government established by ushistory.org, the aristocracy, or wealthy class, dominated the early Roman Republic. In Roman society, the aristocrats were known as patricians. The highest position in the government were held by two consuls, or leaders, who ruled the Roman Republic. A senate composed of patricians elected these consuls. At this time, lower class citizens, or plebeians, had virtually no say in the government. Both men and women were citizens in the Roman Republic, but only men could vote. Gradually, the plebeians obtained even more power and eventually could hold the position of consul. Despite these changes, though, the patricians were still able to use their wealth to buy, control, and influence over elected officials. So my question is, why do only the rich get elected into the United States offices? I need to reword that, I'm sorry. Why are the rich only elected into United States offices? This is taken from The Guardian, and states, contrary to the idea of a government of the people and by the people, new research shows Americans are almost always governed by the very privileged. The president is the billionaire head of a global business empire. His cabinet is mostly millionaires, and most members of Congress are millionaires. Most Supreme Court justices are millionaires. Millionaires make up less than 3% of the general public, but have unified majority control of all three branches of the federal government. Working class Americans, on the other hand, make up about half of the country, but they have never held more than 2% of the seats in any Congress since the nation was founded. United States, Roman Empire, same thing. The Roman Senate, ushistory.org. The history of the Roman Senate goes as far back as the history of Rome itself. It was first created as a 100-member advisory group for the Roman kings. Later, kings expanded the group to 300 members. When the kings were expelled from Rome and the Republic was formed, the Senate became the most powerful governing body. Instead of advising the head of state, it elected the chief executives called consuls. So my question in my mind became, how many members are in the U.S. Senate? And this is taken from senate.gov. The Constitution prescribes that the Senate be composed of 2 senators from each state. Therefore, the Senate currently has 100 members, and that a senator must be at least 30 years of age, have been a citizen of the United States for 9 years, and when elected, be a resident of the state from which he or she is chosen. A senator's term of office is 6 years, and approximately 1/3 of the total membership of the Senate is elected every 2 years. My next question Abaya had me ask was, other countries with senates are mirror governments of U.S. model, and this comes from Britannica.com. Argentina, Brazil, Mexico, and Russia possess federal systems that mirror the U.S. model of equal representation for each sub-national government in the upper chamber. Since the mid-1990s, 1/4 of Mexican senators have been elected in a single national district on the basis of the proportion of votes their political parties receive, and some federal system representation of regions in the upper house is not equal. Senators were for centuries strictly from the patrician class, and they practiced the skill of rhetoric and oratory to persuade other members of the ruling body. The Senate convened and passed laws in the Cura, a large building on the grounds of the Roman Forum, and much later Julius Caesar built a larger Cura for an expanded Senate. By the 3rd century BCE, Rome had conquered vast territories, and the powerful senators sent armies, negotiated terms of treaties, and had total control over the financial matters of the Republic. Sounds like the United States today. And again, this all correlates back to the Roman Catholic government because the Roman Empire never left. It just changed its name, and you're gonna see that here in just a second. 451 BC, the 12 Tables of Roman Republic is formed, and this is by ancient.eu. According to tradition, in 451 BCE, a committee, the decemviri, were following public pressure, given the task of composing a law code which would better represent the interests of the ordinary people, known as plebeians, and reduce the undue influence on Roman law of the aristocrats and priests called pontifices. Again, what does the word pontifex mean? In Catholic, the pontifex is the Pope, the head of the Roman Catholic Church. Today, it's strictly accurate to call any Catholic bishop a pontiff, but the vast majority of Catholics reserve the word for the Bishop of Rome, otherwise known as the Pope. The word means high priest, from a root meaning bridge maker. So, pontifex, according to the Romans.edu, the pontifices formed most important group. They made the religious laws, acted as judges in religious matters. The Pontifex Maximus was the chief of the pontifices. He also disciplined the Vestal Virgins, who belonged to College of the Pontifices. The Rex Sequorum, who performed the religious duties of the old king, was also a member of that college. Initially, there were 4, and after 300 BC, 8 pontifices, and 4 of them had to be plebes. Sulla would raise the number to 15. So that's a little more history on the pontifex. Abaya told me to ask, what is the College of Cardinals? And this comes from Vatican.va. The College of Cardinals, formerly styled the Sacred College of the Cardinals, is the body of all cardinals of the Catholic Church. As of November 28, 2020, its current membership is 229. Cardinals are appointed by the Pope for life. Here we're going to look at what are Vestal Virgins, and this comes from Britannica.com. Vestal Virgins in Roman religion, 6 priestesses representing the daughters of the royal house who tended the state cult of Vesta, the goddess of the hearth. The cult is believed to date to the 7th century BC. Like other non-Christian cults, it was quote-unquote banned in 394 AD by Theodosius I. So then Abaya told me to look up nuns and the origin and history, and this comes from Catholic.com. The Institute of Nuns and Sisters who devote themselves in various religious orders to the practice of a life of perfection dates from the first ages of the church. Again, you have to question what church. And women may claim with a certain pride that they were the first to embrace the religious state for its own sake, without regard to missionary work and ecclesiastical functions proper to men. The virgins were remarkable for their perfect and perpetual chastity, which the Catholic apologists have exalted as a contrast to pagan corruption. Sure do. Many also practiced poverty. Again, I don't know how you can practice poverty. So many people in this world are facing poverty, and nobody enjoys having nothing and living in shacks and run down homes and not being able to eat. So again, I don't know what St. Justin's point of all of this and these Catholic nuns' poverty, because Abaya blesses those who follow him. He gave abundance to Abraham whenever his father was worshiping pagan idols. You need to read the book of Jubilees and Yasher for more information on Abraham. But when Abraham put down the idols and started following Abba Yah, he was blessed. And that's what Abba Yah says. I will bless you. We may not have, Mercedes Benzes sitting out in our yards, but I can guarantee he will bless you with a roof over your head and enough money to pay your bills and to live a life that is not a day-to-day constant struggle. When we bring the struggle on ourselves, that's when we start to struggle. And by that I mean if we're spending money where we shouldn't be, like on a Mercedes Benz, if we're living outside our means and things like that. But there are actual people out here in poverty, like the poorest countries and nations and communities. And then these remarkable, perfect virgins practice poverty, but question, they have a roof over their head, they have food all the time. So how are they practicing poverty? Just saying. Virgins bowed to the service of God, but again, what God? At first continued to live with their families, but as early as the end of the 3rd century, there were community houses known as Parthenos, and certainly at the beginning of the same century, the virgins formed a special class in the church, receiving Holy Communion before the laity. So again, you can't practice poverty if you're not living out on the street and homeless. That's what poor and poverty means, having nothing, because everything's been stripped away from you, whether by your own accord or, pretty much by your own accord. Everybody knows that they have bills to pay. Everybody knows that they need to put food on the table. Everybody knows this. Our actions cause either positive or negative reactions. And a negative reaction is losing everything. Other countries, the government controls what comes in and out. The government controls whether or not you have certain things. Regimes come and destroy. United States comes and attacks villages all the time. For what? That's what I want to know. You say it's a war on terror, but when you're the terrorists, how does that make any sense? I watch on the news all the time, people struggling to find their way back, and now with COVID, but from American armies destroying civilians and their lands. We wage war for the wrong reasons, and it's all because of the Roman influence and the indoctrination in people's minds. And liberation begins when you turn back to the true word of Abba Yah and you stop oppressing yourself and you stop oppressing others, and hate, greed, and envy finally end. But that's not going to happen until Abba Yah returns. It continues to say, hence in the 9th century, the list of women vowed to the service of God included these various classes. Virgins whose solemn consecration was reserved to the Pope. See, not, to God. Their consecration was reserved to the Pope and the bishops, not to God. God is not in any of this. It says they vowed the service to God, but what God? That's the question. What God? So then the other question Abba Yah had me ask was, how many consecrated virgins are there? And this came from theadvocate.com, and it states the vocation returned to the church following Vatican II in 1970. Today, Poussin said there are 4 consecrated virgins in Louisiana. Catholic News Agency said in 2017 story that there are fewer than 3,000 in the world and some 235 in the United States. The consecrated virgin is Mary in the world, said one of these virgins. Mary was humble, spent lots of time in prayer, and followed Jesus. She was sort of in the background, though, for the most part. Well, yeah, because Mary is not our Savior. Yahushua HaMashiach is our Savior. And these virgins are the same as Vestal virgins. Remember, the names have changed to keep you asleep from the truth. And here is a very good piece of writing comparing and contrasting the Vestal virgins with the consecrated virgins. And you can find this at scholarsarchive.byu.edu/CGI viewcontent.cgi. Or you can go to the website and look at it yourself. Excuse me. Another question that Abba Yah had me ask was, does the Roman Catholic Church have orders? And it states from newadvent.org, the Council of Trent defined that besides the priesthood, there are in the church other orders, both major and minor. Though nothing has been defined with regard to the number of orders, it is usually given as 7. Priests, deacons, subdeacons, acolytes, exorcists, readers, and doorkeepers. The priesthood is thus counted as including bishops. If the latter be numbered separately, we might have 8. And if we add first tonsure, which was at one time regarded as an order, we have 9. We meet with different numberings in different churches, and it would seem that mystical reasons influence them to some extent. The sacramental character of the priesthood has never been denied by anyone who admitted the sacrament of order, and though not explicitly defined, it follows immediately from the statements of the Council of Trent. If anyone saith that besides the priesthood there are not in the Catholic Church other orders, by major and minor, but which, as by certain steps, advance is made to the priesthood, let him be anathema. In the 4th chapter of the same session, after declaring that the sacrament of order imprints a character which can neither be effaced or taken away, the Holy Synod with reason condemns the opinion of those who assert that priests of the New Testament have only a temporary power. The priesthood is therefore a sacrament. Wow, okay. Now back to the 12 tablets. Because only random quotations from the 12 tablets are in existence, knowledge about their content is largely derived from references and later judicial writings. Venerated by the Romans as a prime legal source, the 12 tables are superseded by later changes in Roman law, but were never formally abolished. I wonder why that is. Because the Roman Catholic Church is the Roman Empire. So you can find 12 tables at csun.edu. Table 1 talks about procedure for courts and trials. Table 2 talks about trials continued. 3 is debt, right of the fathers. 5 is legal guardianship and inheritance. 6 is acquisition and possession. 7 is land rights. 8 is torts and delicts, laws of injury. 9 is public law. 10 is sacred law. 11 is supplement 1 and 12 is supplement 2. And here's an example of 4. 4 states a dreadful deformed child shall be killed. 4 also states if a father surrendered his son for sale 3 times, that son shall be free. So here's slavery. Just saying. 5, our ancestors saw that females, by reason of lividity or disposition, shall remain in guardianship even when they have attained their majority. 5 again, a spendthrift is forbidden to exercise administration over his own goods. The inheritance of a Roman citizen freeman is made over to his patron if the free man has died in state and has no natural successor. Wow. So let's talk about the Punic Wars, that occurred in 264 through 146 BC. Scipio Africanus, also called Scipio Africanus the Elder, in full, noted for his victory over the Carthaginian leader Hannibal in the Great Battle of Zama, ending the Second Punic War. For his victory, he won the surname Africanus, and that's from Britannica.com. The early Roman Republic often found itself in a state of constant warfare with its surrounding neighbors. In one instance, when the Romans were fighting the Carthaginians, Rome was nearly conquered. The people of Carthage, a city in what is today Tunisia in northern Africa, were a successful trading civilization whose interests began to conflict with those of the Romans. The two sides fought 3 bloody wars known as the Punic Wars, again 264 to 146 BC, over the control of trade in the western Mediterranean Sea. In the Second War, Hannibal, a Carthaginian general, successfully invaded Italy by leading an army, complete with elephants across the Alps. He handed the Roman army a crushing defeat, but was unable to sack the city of Rome itself. After occupying and ravaging Italy for more than a decade, Hannibal was finally defeated by the Roman general Scipio at the Battle of Zama in 202 BC. History.com states, during the early Republic, the Roman state grew exponentially in both size and power. Though the Gauls sacked and burned Rome in 390 BC, the Roman rebounded under the leadership of the military hero Camillus, eventually gaining control of the entire Italian peninsula by 264 BC. Rome then fought a series of wars known as the Punic Wars with Carthage, a powerful city-state in northern Africa. The first 2 Punic Wars ended with Rome in full control of Sicily, the western Mediterranean, and much of Spain. In the Third Punic War, 149 to 146 BC, the Romans captured and destroyed the city of Carthage and sold its surviving inhabitants into slavery, making a section of northern Africa a Roman province. At the same time, Rome also spread its influence east, defeating King Philip V of Macedonia in the Macedonian Wars and turning his kingdom into another Roman province. In 255 BC, the Hebrew Bible is translated into the Greek Septuagint. One of the major conflicts between Jews and the early Christians was the interpretation of Isaiah 7:14. The Greek translation of Isaiah 7:14 was a key point in Justin Martyr's debate with the Jews. He relied exclusively on the Greek version, which translates the ambiguous word marriageable girl or young woman with virgin. Now this is important because Isaiah 7:14 in the Hebrew really does mean young girl. Let's look that up real quick. So again, you type in what you're looking for. We're going to go to tools. And Hebrew word H5959 is Alma, and it means a young woman of marriageable age, maid, or newly married. It also has that virgin, notation to it because, you know, there is no instance where it can be proved that Alma designates a young woman who is not a virgin. Okay, so Alma again means a woman of marriageable age, a maid or newly married, and Mary, the mother of Yahusha, was to, in fact, be married to Joseph. So we know that she was marriageable in age. And this word is used 7 times in 7 verses of the Torah or Old Testament. So, but you need to understand that the Roman Catholics love their virgins. And in the Gesenius Hebrew Chaldee lexicon, it says, of the preceding a girl of marriageable age, like the Arabic word, it is used of a useful spouse recently married, as in Isaiah 7:14. And the notation of unspotted virginity is not that which the word conveys, for which the proper word is, I can't read Hebrew, so I'm not going to even translate that. It says the notion of unspotted virginity, okay. And then neither does it convey the idea of the unmarried state, as has of late been maintained by Hagensberg. So that's something you need to look up too. It says, note the object in view in seeking to undermine the opinion which would assign the significance of virgin to this word is clearly to raise a discrepancy between Isaiah 7:14 and Matthew 1:23. Nothing which has been stated does, however, really give us any ground for assigning another meaning. The ancient versions which gave a different rendering did so for party purpose, while the lexicon, who could have no such motive, rendered it virgin in the very passage where it must, to their minds, have occasioned a difficulty. Alma in the Punic language signified virgin, as Genius rightly states. On the authority of Jerome, the absolute authority of the New Testament is, however, quite sufficient to settle the question to a Christian. So again, it says the ancient versions which gave a different rendering did so because that's what it meant in Hebrew. It meant a young woman of marriageable age, a maid or newly married woman. So again, we read that the major key points in the Greek translation was he relied exclusively on the word needing to be virgin and not marriageable girl or young woman. And so the Jewish community reacted decisively against the persistence of Martyr and other apologists who used the cherished Jewish translation. According to Mueller, when the Christian church from the middle of the 2nd century openly began to argue on the basis of the wording of the Greek translation against the wording of the Hebrew text, Judaism disassociated itself from the Old Greek translation, probably in connection with the Synod of Jamnia. And that comes from academiclogos.com. So it's important to understand that again at 255 BC, the Old Testament is being translated into the Greek Septuagint, which is why it's imperative to understand the translations today have, you have to use discernment. You have to know. I use the King James so I can trace back as accurately as possible to the original Hebrew and yes, Greek, because the New Testament was written in Greek and we have to, but we have to use discernment. If it does not fit, you must acquit. Trying to throw in some humor, just saying. 225 through 175 BC, the book of Tobit is written. The book of Tobit tells the story of Tobit and his family who are living as exiles from Israel after the Assyrian conquest. Through a series of events, Tobit goes blind and sends his son on a journey accompanied by the angel Raphael, who is disguised as a human. On his journey, the son Tobias meets Sarah, who is afflicted by a demon. Raphael intervenes and dispatches the demon, allowing Tobias and Sarah to marry. They return to Tobit and his wife, Anna. Tobit's sight returns and he dies old and happy because of God's intervention in their travels. And that's from Britannica.com. And Tobit is primarily concerned with the problem of reconciling evil in the world with divine justice. And you should read the book of Tobit. It's very, very important. There were several Aramaic and Hebrew manuscripts of Tobit found among the Dead Sea Scrolls. However, much provided a watershed in understanding the book. Analysis of the scrolls have provided widespread agreement that the book was originally written in Aramaic. And these manuscripts, however, are fragmentary, and translations are still made from the Greek version of Codex Sinaiticus. So, also, Tobit is cited for teaching intercessions of angels, fidelity, piety, and reverence for the dead. That's why the Roman Catholic Church uses it. And they assign saints in place of the angels. So instead of praying, to God, who sends his angels to intercede for us, we are told that the Roman Catholic Church prays to saints for intercession and Mary. So again, the book of Tobit really does talk about how Abba Yah sends his angels to intervene. And that's what angels are for, protection. We all have guardian angels. In 133 BC through 122 BC, internal struggles of the Senate, from history.com. Rome's complex political institution began to crumble under the weight of the growing empire, ushering in an era of internal turmoil and violence. The gap between rich and poor widened as wealthy landowners drove small farmers from public land, while access to government was increasingly limited to the more privileged class. Attempts to address these social problems, such as the reform movement of Tiberius and Gaius Gracchus in 133 BC and 123 BC respectively, ended the reformers' deaths at the hands of their opponents. And that was from history.com. In 133 BC, there is a scene of horrific violence in Rome. A party of reactionary senators and their supporters clubbed to death a tribune of people and 300 others. This event, unprecedented in the previous 4 centuries of Roman history, ushers in 100 years of intermittent civil war. Rioting breaks out in 121 during a debate on one of his measures. The Senate declares a state of emergency, the first in Roman history. An armed party led by a consul attempts to seize Gracchus. In the fighting, he's killed, and subsequently 3,000 of his supporters are executed. So again, my question to you is this: why would anyone take the advice of Rome, especially knowing that the Vatican is in the shape of a snake and its throne rooms look like serpents and dead sheep? Why would anyone believe what Rome has to say, knowing they killed our Messiah? Yes, I know that was preordained, but just think about it. I don't and never will conform to anyone but Abba Yah. It's time to come out of the beast. It's like believing in NASA, which was founded by the Nazis and occultists after World War II. Why would I want to take advice or believe something about my Abba Yah when it comes from the mouths of those who murdered and tortured and killed millions of people? Because if you're unaware, the Roman Catholic Church sided with the Nazis. And we will get to that in part 5. But there's so much history I left out again. This wasn't a history lesson, but a reality check on the importance of what the Roman Catholic Church has turned the world into. And that is the unholy Roman Empire, as prophesied in Daniel and Revelation. It's important to understand when our prophets lived as to understanding what it is that they prophesied. Knowing how and what they said is vital for today, because Abba Yah is coming back and we need to be prepared. And the first step is waking up, for this is the first resurrection, and those who are not found in the book of life will perish. That's it. You will perish. You will be as if you never existed. And I'm just the messenger. It's your choice to do what you will with this information. Again, I urge everyone to go on to the Lions Terrors Ministry website and look at this stuff yourself. World history, U.S. history, documents Rome, because the world is Rome. That's the mystery. Mystery Babylon is the Roman Empire. Babylon again means confusion. This whole world is confused on who they are, and it's time to wake up to the true word of Abba Yah.